quiet part out loud. I'm about to show you what he just said about records and what that implies for all of us, because if you don't think that this is about something bigger than just gun dealers, yeah, I got a bridge to sell you somewhere where there's no water. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comments field below, and make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. Alright, my brothers and sisters, let's get this, because this is coming out of the media, and you know that they are super excited. They're closing the gun show loophole, the thing that never existed, but they are. It's huge. It's massive. In fact, check this out. And Steve Dettelbach getting caught up in all the parade and fanfare. That's the quiet part out loud. Biden administration proposes rule that require more firearm dealers to run background checks, because after all, that pesky gun show loophole that doesn't exist, that's going to be a bit of a problem. And they're also targeting the internet. The internet. Anyway, let's continue. Washington from the AP. The Biden administration is proposing a rule that would require thousands more firearm dealers to run background checks in an effort to combat rising gun violence nationwide. So there's the talking points right there. But what we're getting into, and again, if you did not watch these videos that we produced on this channel, the live we did yesterday, the breakdown we did yesterday, or other channels that also broke it down, you're talking about you're a dealer if you sell something within 30 days of buying it. So now there's a 30-day window. If you have something that's brand new in box and you didn't use it for a year but you sold it, yeah, you're a dealer. You're talking about such a vague, ambiguous way to enforce this. I can't wait for the lawsuits myself. But let me get to the point of the video with Steve Dettelbach. Listen to what Steve said, the illustrious director of the ATF, who, interestingly enough, knows nothing about gun laws, nothing about guns, nothing about gun legislation, but he's got people. Okay. The Bureau estimates that the rule would affect anywhere from 24,500 people to 328,000 sellers. It is aimed at those who are in the business of gun sales rather than those with personal collections. So they're trying to put up the flag and say, if you're trying to sell something personal, it's fine, because constitutionally that would infringe upon the Supremacy Clause and the Commerce Clause. All these pieces, maybe not supremacy, maybe more commerce. The Commerce Clause, well, no, it's about personal collections are fine, but if you're engaged in the business of being a dealer, that's why you have to redefine this term of what a dealer is, because you're going to run into constitutional issues. That's the whole point. This little game that they play is all about vernacular and verbiage and how they can get around not being unconstitutional while still being unconstitutional. That's the point. Anyway, continue. Background checks help prevent guns from being sold to people convicted of crimes, teenagers, and others who are legally blocked from owning them, said the agency's director, Steve Dettelbach. Yeah, because everyone out there who owns private firearms and sells them person to person is going, hey, you're a teenager, you should buy this. Come on. That is idiotic. One of the most responsible communities on the planet is the gun industry. If you don't believe me, do something dumb inside of a gun range to see how quickly you get checked, not by the ATF, not by the FBI, but by the gun owners there. Because safety is paramount. Anyway, come on, let's keep going. That's what Steve Dettelbach said. Federally licensed firearm dealers are also required to keep records and sell guns with serial numbers, both of which help law enforcement trace weapons used in crimes. So now, before I get to the actual quote from Steve Dettelbach here, let's back out a little bit, what they've done in the past 2.5 years, and tell me if you can read the tea leaves of where this is going. So they've said that ghost guns, anything without a serial number or frame of receiver that's not yet a firearm, is now a firearm requiring a serial number. Now you have to redefine what a dealer is, and then keep records and keep serial numbers. So you're putting serial numbers on anything that is or could be potentially a firearm. Then your next step is to change who the definition of a dealer is, so you have records and serial numbers on everything that would transpire. It's almost like they are incrementally building a registry. That's what this looks like. If you back this out, that's exactly what's happening, which is federally illegal. But let's continue, because now I've got to show you the actual quote from the director of the ATF. Unlicensed dealers sell guns without running background checks, without keeping records, without observing the other crucial public safety requirements by which the federally licensed firearm dealer community abides, he says, without keeping records. They openly will tell you what their end goal here is. It's not about safety. It's not about 1 in 5 guns are sold under the table at the evil gun show loophole and the internet is only exacerbating the problem. It's about the fact that they've now changed everything to have serial numbers, and now they want records on everything through a universal background check system. That is what they are building, piece by piece by piece. They lie to you while they do it. They whistle all the way down the road with victory, and now he's come out and say it like, well, you know, we get more complete records. Yeah, they are tightening the grip of control. Now, let me dive into what some of the gun control proponents are saying, because you know they're not biased. The Gifford Center to Prevent Gun Violence applauded the proposed rule change, saying it closes a gaping loophole. Executive Director Peter Ambler said the Biden administration had taken a giant step forward towards our goal of universal background checks. The director of the ATF has said it. The director of the ATF just now said it. The president of one of the largest gun control groups in the United States just said it. They are going towards a universal background check system of which they are building through the executive bureaucracies outside the confines of Congress. This is so unconstitutionally abusive to our system and our rights. It is next level. I don't see how anyone cannot see this. Maybe it's because I'm in it so much. I don't know, but let me know what you guys think. And now this last piece. Chris Brown, because we got to go to another group, president of the gun control group Brady, said more than 1 in 5 gun sales in the U.S. are conducted without a background check. You know, how would you possibly know that? You don't know that. It's all conjecture to scare people because they want their control. They want their universal background checks. That's what they just said. It's a giant step forward, gun control and universal background check. These people have no end goal except the abolition of the Second Amendment. If you do not believe that, I don't know what to tell you. I try to highlight it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one.
You may start to see something new on food labels. The word bioengineered will replace the old term GMO.
Consumer reporter Susan Hogan is working for you to explain this change so that you can make some smart and healthy choices for your family.
Well, that's right. Both the new term bioengineered and the one it's replacing, GMO, refer to foods that have had their DNA altered to either enhance their nutritional value or make them resistant to disease. So if you pay attention to food labels, you've probably seen GMO on some products made with food like corn and soybeans, foods like canola oil or sugar. But now GMO will be called bioengineered on food labels. The changes are part of the USDA's new rules that went into effect this year to create a national standard for labeling. The words mean the same thing, but some critics say because GMOs have a bad rap, changing the name is somewhat deceitful to consumers.
Now they suddenly said, oh, we're not going to call it GMO anymore. We're going to call it BE, bioengineered, right? So that's already hiding the fact. Most people don't know what bioengineered is. They'll see it on their label and they'll say, well, I don't know what that means.
So here's what the new labeling is going to look like. For example, this cereal box, which is now in compliance, lets you know right there on the labeling that it contains bioengineered ingredients. Or some products will display labels like these. And under the new labeling laws, food manufacturers also have the option to simply put a QR code like this one on its packaging. So now the burden is on you to scan it in order to see whether there are bioengineered ingredients in the product you want to buy. Some food safety groups claim this discriminates against a huge population of consumers.
Approximately 1/3 of Americans, probably 100 million people, or over 100 million people, don't have the smartphones. It's primarily the elderly, people of low income, which is often people of color. They're actually locked out altogether. They won't get anything. They won't even get the BE or bioengineer or even the QR code because they can't access that.
The Center for Food Safety filed a lawsuit against the USDA to block these new rules.
How do we hold them accountable? This is an emergency right now. I'm calling for an emergency special session. I've had senators ask me, what do you do when you have an emergency special session? First step, Steve, defund Fani Willis. Now, these senators, they want to use semantics with their constituents, and they want to say, well, she receives local funding or she receives federal funding. Well, she also receives Georgia state tax dollars, Steve, and my constituents do not want their hard-earned tax dollars funding this type of rogue power. Okay? The second thing we have to do is we have to investigate Fani Willis. They say, well, what would you investigate? What about the fact that the indictment comes out the day before the jury even finishes and concludes, right? We need to investigate what coordination she's had with the U.S. Department of Justice. There are so many things to investigate. What about the fact that half of her inmates at the Fulton County Jail have yet to be charged with a crime? I mean, when the citizens of Fulton County have to start paying for this and not my citizens in Northwest Georgia and across this state, they're going to think twice about what she's doing, because instead of their neighbor getting murdered and their other neighbor getting robbed, and all she's worried about is taking on political prisoners, you know, maybe she'll stop and think about that.
A growing groundswell of opposition is rising up against the corrupt Fulton County DA Fani Willis, and it's just getting started. That was Georgia State Senator Colton Moore who's leading the effort to impeach Willis of the ridiculous weaponized legal witch hunt against President Trump. A witch hunt that's only in the end making Trump stronger than ever, especially among black men, which we'll be covering in a later video. It's now being widely reported that House Republicans are indeed launching an official probe into the shenanigans of the Fulton County DA's office. The House Judiciary Committee is investigating whether federal law enforcement agencies or officials were involved in Fani Willis's investigation and indictment. Her office was notified of the investigation and what she's required to turn over. Quote, the committee is demanding the DA's office turn over all documentation of its use of federal funds, communications with the DOJ or its components, and any records of cooperation with officials of the executive branch. Here's House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan on what they're investigating.
3 questions, Sean. Did you coordinate with the Biden administration, the same administration who's indicted their general election opponent in D.C. and Miami already? Did you coordinate with them? Did you work with Jack Smith? Look at the same witnesses. Any coordination there? And did you use federal funds as part of this investigation? We asked these same questions of Alvin Bragg a few months ago, and he, in fact, did use American tax dollars to go after President Trump in Manhattan. And oh, by the way, Alvin Bragg sued us when we subpoenaed one of those prosecutors up there in Manhattan. He sued us, we went to court, and the court ruled for us. So we're going to be just as aggressive here. We're going to do it within the Constitution, but we're going to do our duty to get the answers the American people deserve for this ridiculous indictment that's taken place in Georgia.
Yeah. What did you expect, man? You just said, you're not Trump legally, and you expect us to have a clean slate? Nah. People are going to look into you. She basically ended her own career chasing after Trump, man, trying to chase that notoriety. And as a taxpayer, I'm pretty pissed at this witch hunt. And I don't think I want my money going to support it. You know, I believe that people who hold powerful positions such as hers should put all of their ego and personal bias aside. Gotta check them emotions at the door, man, because she's obviously tainted by what the left has portrayed Trump to be. It's time to get to investigating, because the swamp need to be drained.
American people deserve for this ridiculous indictment that's taken place in Georgia.
Yeah, so thus far, Willis has refused to answer questions as to whether she had been in touch with Jack Smith, the special counsel that's brought 2 indictments against Trump. And former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is saying that word on the street is that this Fulton County indictment was actually ordered by the deep state in D.C.
That I am told, this is hearsay, but I am told by a reliable source, that Friday evening somebody from Washington called the district attorney in Atlanta and said, you have to indict on Monday. We have to cover up all of the mistakes we just made with Weiss. And she said, apparently, my jurors aren't coming back till Tuesday. And they said, you didn't hear me. You have to indict on Monday. And she said, well, they're not going to get here before noon. They said, it doesn't matter. She said, this means it's going to be 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It doesn't matter. We need the news media shifting off of
Who made that phone call?
We don't know. And I'm telling you up front, this is hearsay, but it's from a person who has remarkably good sources.
I totally believe it, though, because that would explain why they leaked and they messed up on the clerk document, why she was exhausted, and why they had the 11 p.m. press conference, Mr. Speaker.
Gang, we are literally at the beginning of something utterly epic. And no, I'm not talking about the return to Trump. Last week, dozens of nations met in Johannesburg to discuss a new trade currency backed by gold. And you don't want to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get in on the action. We got to make it low right now. So there appears to be coordination between the deep state in D.C. and the Fulton County DA to deliberately cover up the corruption behind the David Weiss fiasco. Remember, Merrick Garland, who is objectively speaking an abject disaster of the Attorney General. He appointed David Weiss as a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden, even though Weiss is the very one who gave Hunter that sweetheart special plea deal designed specifically to cover up Joe Biden's criminality. So as you would expect, the appointment was a public relations disaster. Recent ABC polls found that only 30% of voters expressed any semblance of trust in the integrity and independence of the investigation. The vast majority are just laughing at it, so blatant. So it was a disaster, and according to Gingrich, they needed a diversion to take attention away from the corruption that's infested itself in the highest level.
Always need a diversion.
So now we got this probe from the Fulton County DA's office being launched by a Congressional Oversight Committee, and we got Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs introducing a bill to defund Fani Willis. It's a bill that's actually called the Willis Act. Have you heard about this? It stands for Withholding Investment from Lawless Litigators in States Act. It's absolutely brilliant. At the same time, as we saw earlier, we got Georgia State Senator Colton Moore calling for a special legislative session to investigate whether this political indictment was politically motivated.
Hello, everyone. It's Senator Colton Moore coming to you from the Fulton County Jail. Today, Donald Trump, who have been taken political prisoner, are going to be booked in this jail. The 200,000 people that I represent who sweat hard every day for their tax dollars, they don't want their tax dollars funding this corrupt district attorney, Fani Willis. Right. We as a legislature, me as a senator, we have a job to do. We have a constitutional duty to provide oversight against executive and judicial officers. And that's why I'm demanding that we call a special session today. Defund Fani Willis of any Georgia tax money and start the investigation into her. Contact your state representative, contact your state senator, demand a special session. We've got work to do, we've got a country to save.
Now, obviously, Colton Moore is not alone in this call. Republican congressional candidate Anthony Sabatini originally tweeted out, the Georgia legislature must call special session tomorrow and immediately subpoena Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis tomorrow. In the meantime, freeze all funds to her office. Any Republican, especially in Georgia, not calling for this must be eliminated from office. The problem here, of course, as he's alluding to, is that Georgia's Republican-dominated legislature is also governed at the top by the feckless establishment rhino Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, who's refusing to call a special session. And you also have Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr, again a Republican, who's refusing to step in and get involved in the motion that was filed to remove the case from state court to federal court, even though Georgia state law requires the Attorney General to be involved in any state criminal case that could be removed to federal court. So we talked about this on Friday's live stream. A Republican Attorney General in Georgia could shut this circus down this very second, but he refuses to do it. And it's all because these feckless rhino establishment hacks are all in on it. Yes. They want Trump indicted. They want Trump taken away.
Yep, they don't even care.
This is going to require the people.
They don't even care if you go to jail or not.
Rising up against their feckless rhino establishment and holding their feet to the fire. And that's what we all have to do. We all have to stand up and make sure those who claim to represent us shut this circus down for good, hold these reckless lawfare practitioners.
First of all, shout out to Dr. B. Make sure y'all go to the link in the description to support his channel. I appreciate all of this information that he's presenting from you guys to be able to assess. So definitely go support his channel. One thing I will say, you gotta admit it. Democrats, they know how to fight. You got an indictment that comes out before the grand jury decides to indict you, bro. Like, that ain't corrupt. And the man who was speaking with Charlie Kirk, I can't remember his name right now, but him laying out those details of kind of how it all got sparked to come out early. I can't verify it either, but just like Charlie Kirk, it does make sense. Well, y'all, we gotta pray for this world, man. I'm gonna say a quick prayer right now. Lord, I appreciate you. I just want to pray for the world. Amen. This is random, has nothing to do with the video, but out of curiosity, hey, you made it this far, where you from, man? I want to know where y'all from and just say what's up and talk to y'all about any and everything. But back to what we doing. Just to play devil's advocate, wouldn't it be kind of funny if Trump actually won and then switched over to the Democratic Party and just to lead the Democratic Party? I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all heard that question and went, ew. But I had to play devil's advocate, man. Y'all know. In my humble opinion, I feel like this shouldn't be about politics. This should just be about wrong and right. And we already know what's wrong. Biden, everything about your past is just going to come back to haunt you doing this. And this is why you can't do any and everything for some money, man. You just ruined your whole reputation and everything just based off of wanting to chase this fame of getting in cool with everybody who hate Trump. And if you think she's going to be telling the truth about anything, don't hold your breath. I'm hoping something comes. Check out this comment. Oh, God, another fake investigation from Congress rhinos. Hopefully nobody will break a nail while typing out those strongly worded letters. The senator in Georgia seems to have gotten right on this corrupt Fannie.
This becomes a responsibility. The thing I'm now called upon to put right and put down. Certainly you expected nothing less.
I'm ashamed of my actions.
Ashamed? You're not allowed the luxury of human weakness and penitence. You're not allowed to put your indulgences ahead of the greater purpose.
I no longer believe in the greater purpose.
Then your fate is just.
My justice is not for you to mete out. You may have reason. You have no right. You have no means.
You presume to dictate duty to me? Have you any idea what the cost of your actions, what their effect might be? Or you to give them hope?
What do you give them?
We give them happiness. And they give us authority.
The authority to take away their freedom under the guise of democracy.
Men can never be free. Because they're weak, corrupt, worthless, and restless. The people believe in authority. They've grown tired of waiting for miracle and mystery. Science is their religion. No greater explanation exists for them. They must never believe any differently if the project is to go forward.
What cost to them?
The question's irrelevant, and the outcome inevitable. The date is set.
At what cost to them for your own selfish benefit? How many must die at your hand to preserve your stake in the project?
I'm not impressed by your miracles or moved by your trickery. Your justice would be meted out.
By whom this time? And by what tool?
By those who possess the tool of your destruction.